Hello, future teachers. Today we are going to talk about childhood and children. Now, I am reminded of a very nice ghazal from Jagjit Singh. ये दौलत भी ले लो, ये शोहरत भी ले लो, ये छीन लो मुझसे मेरी ये जवानी, मगर मुझे लौटा दो बचपन का वो सावन, वो कागज़ की कश्ती, वो बारिश का पानी. There is another song, हम भी अगर बच्चे होते, नाम हमारा होता डब्लू बबलू और खाने को मिलते लड्डू. Now, when we think about childhood, we think of all the happy memories and all the good things in life when we are totally free of worry and totally free of any kinds of, you can say, distress and all. But do you think each and every child gets to enjoy such a childhood? It's basically no. Now, if you look at all the different, you can say, see the newspapers, see the TV, and we get to know the kind of atrocities which are being inflicted on children and by our own society. Now, this is a session basically about, we'll discuss about child abuse and child rights. So, first of all, I'll try to show you some of the clippings which are there in the newspapers and media which show the plight of children in our society, in our country. Have a look at this, children being subjected to all different kinds of atrocities. These are some of the shocking, you can say, newspaper headlines in the recent times, which says that over 53% of children face sexual abuse. Independence Day shocker, child kite strings kill 2 children or sunroof ride. And there are news about children being gang raped, school bus running over children, and the railway stations not safe for runaway children. So where do we go? I mean, can we not ensure safe childhood for each and every child in our country or in our society? First of all, talk about children and what are their rights. Do children have any rights? So first of all, let us try to see who is a child. Every human being below the age of 18 years is classified as a child according to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, which we call as UNCRC in brief. Now, child right is an agreement or a contract between persons who hold the right, who are known as right holders, and persons or institutions who have obligations and responsibility in relation to the realization to that right, referred to as duty bearers. So basically, children have certain specific rights, and the irony is children do not have the awareness of these rights. Not even children, even the adults also don't have. So this session is basically about, we'll discuss about what different child rights are. Child rights are those rights which are meant for all human beings below the age of 18 years. So as far as the definition of child goes, anybody who is 18 years or below is a child. According to UNCRC, child rights are minimum entitlements and freedom that should be afforded to all persons below the age of 18 years, regardless of race, color, gender, religion, region, opinions, origin, wealth, birth status, ability, etc., etc., and therefore apply to all people everywhere. About children's rights, we can say that UN finds that these rights are interdependent and indivisible. That means that a right cannot be fulfilled at the expense of another right. So each and every rights are mandatory rights which should be enjoyed by children across levels, across countries, across societies. Now let us try to see what are these different rights. Now UNCRC has given 4 distinct rights to all the children. The first and the foremost right is the right to survival, which means, or it has these 4 different components. Right to be born. So according to UNCRC, life begins after 20 weeks of conception. That means if the fetus is 20 weeks old, we assume that this is a life, this is an individual. That is why the law doesn't permit MTP or medical termination of pregnancy if the fetus is 20 weeks old. Right to minimum standards of food, shelter and clothing. Right to live with dignity. Right to health and care, to safe drinking water, nutritious food, clean and safe environment, and information to stay happy and healthy. So this was the right of survival. The second very important right is right to protection. The right to be protected from all sorts of violence, from neglect, from physical and sexual abuse, and from dangerous drugs. So we can say that each and every child has a right to lead a well protected and secured life away from neglect. Third right is right to participation. That means the children, they have this right to get themselves involved in any decision which involve them directly or indirectly. They have a right of freedom of opinion. They have right to freedom of expression and association. Association means they have a right to get themselves associated with family, with society, with the nation at large. So they are an important part of the society. So any decision which basically concerns them, they have the right to be associated with it. Right to information. So every child has a right to identify with the nation and to know about his or her position in the society. This is the fourth right, that is right to development, which is again very important. It includes all the different facets which bring about development in any child. So it includes right to education, right to learn, right to relax and play, and right to all forms of development, that is emotional, mental, physical. These are just a few, and we are also talking about you can say the social development, emotional development, aesthetic, moral, ethical, everything. So all facets of development have to be taken into consideration. Now, as per the Indian Constitution, what are the rights of the children? So we all know about the right to education, which states that children have a right to free and compulsory education in the age group of 6 to 14 years, and it is the obligation of the state to provide this right to each and every child. Article 24 of the Constitution says, or it prohibits the employment of all children in factories, etc. No child below the age of 14 years shall be employed to work in any factory or be employed in any, you can say, industry which is considered to be hazardous. Now, our constitution does not prohibit employment of children across levels, so but they can be employed, but yes, it has to be done under some regulation. As per Article 39E, the tender age of children are not abused, and that citizens are not forced by economic necessity to enter vocations unsuited to their age or strength. We cannot employ children in things which are hazardous for them. According to Section 39F, children are given opportunities and facilities to develop in a healthy manner and in conditions of freedom and dignity, and that childhood and youth are protected against exploitation and against moral and material abandonment. So again, this is something which is very right, ki we have to provide for our children. Our children are not just, we cannot just let them born and let them just be. We have to, the parents have this obligation for their children to take care of them and to provide for them. Now, what is child abuse? Now, we have spoken about children and their rights. Now, do you think that these rights are being given to each and every child in our society? So we'll briefly talk about child abuse. What is child abuse? Child abuse or maltreatment constitutes all forms of physical and or emotional treatment, sexual abuse, neglect or commercial or other forms of exploitation resulting in actual or potential harm to a child's health, survival, development or dignity in the context of a relationship of responsibility, trust or power. This is the definition given to us by the World Health Organization. Now, children can be exploited or abused in different ways. We will briefly try to discuss about what are the different forms of child abuse. The first and the foremost is physical abuse. Now, when you talk of physical abuse, children being hit, physical harm like kicking, punching, beating, hitting and other forms of physical torture, various other things, they show the kind of physical abuse the children have to go through at times in the hands of their own parents. Emotional abuse is also known as the verbal, mental or psychological maltreatment. It includes negative influences in the environment like insulting the child, rebuking the child, threatening, discriminating, ridiculing, belittling. Now, if you talk about, say, discrimination is something which is very much a part of our society. Say, even in families and even in well-educated families, till date also there is a discrimination going on between the boy child and the girl child. So, we talk of all of and this discrimination creates a lot of, you can say, emotional baggage on the psyche of the children. Another form of child abuse is the sexual abuse. It is basically engaging in inappropriate sexual behavior with the child which he or she cannot understand or is mentally or emotionally not prepared for to give a informed consent. So, and it includes different sexual practices, prostitution, using children for pornography, etc., etc. Now, this is something which every day, on an everyday basis, newspapers make headlines. Another very kind of child abuse is neglect. It is basically not providing for the child. It is deficit in meeting a child's basic need, including failure to provide adequate health care, supervision, clothing, nutrition, housing, medical needs, educational or emotional or psychological needs. Now, I am reminded of a news item just a few days back, wherein a father killed his own son because he couldn't take care of them, and the two daughters which he had, they were in such poor health, and they were infected with wounds and all, and the wounds were filled with maggots, and the father is not in position and the mother is not there. So this is a classic, or you can say the extreme form of neglect which the children can face. Who are the children who are at risk? That means each and every child can be abused at any point of time, but there are certain children who are essentially more at risk as compared to the other children. So if you talk of intellectually deficient children whose IQ is a little low, they may not be able to decipher the intentions of the people around them. So these people can be, or these children can be, an easy target. Differently abled people, can say disadvantaged or deprived emotionally or psychologically. So these are the students or children who can be an easy target for people. Children coming from the low socioeconomic status and dysfunctional families. So low socioeconomic status also, at times the parents are not there, or parents are not in a position to understand the kind of you can say atrocities which can be inflicted upon children, or they can themselves put children in hazardous occupations or other things. So children can be at risk. Dysfunctional families, because at times families do not try to provide the kind of functions which the families should be providing. Now, how do we identify children who are abused? So we need to look for any unusual behavior. All of a sudden children are starting to steal money from home, or rushing towards the toilet as soon as they get home, not wanting to go by bus, or insisting that the parents be with the children. So the parents or the teachers, they have to be on a lookout for any of these unusual behaviors which the children may exhibit. It may indicate something wrong going on with the child somewhere in some particular setting. A child not wanting to go home, a child not wanting to come to school, a child not wanting to go to a playground or a park or a particular relative's place, or a child starts behaving differently in the presence or in the absence of somebody. So these are some of the indicators which indicate that there is something going on in the life of the child, and we have to pay attention to these things. Staying aloof suddenly, drop in the grades or total disinterest, sulking unnecessarily, nervous at the sight of boys, males, or even girls also. So the thing is, if the child gets nervous at the sight of certain particular individual, it means something. New friends suddenly, especially maybe in the adolescent age. Now in the classes, the teachers especially have to be on look for these certain very peculiar conditions, say unexplained bruises. If you ask the child, where did you get this bruise from, the child is not able to answer, or child is not willing to answer. Certain fractures, bite marks, and children are making an attempt to cover up these unidentified or unexplained bruises. Behavioral extremes, extreme aggression or totally withdrawn. I mean, any drastic change in behavior we have to look into. Difficulty in walking or sitting, that means child has been subjected to something wrong. Torn or stained clothes, threatened by physical contact or closeness. Say if somebody goes and stands very near to the child gets a little, by way of body language, gets very uncomfortable. So that means there is something which needs to be taken care of. Again, frequent absenteeism or stealing and begging for food, that means the child's needs are not being attended at home. Unattended medical records, the child is not being shown to the doctor. Overtly concerned for siblings, at times the older sibling may be unduly concerned for the younger sibling because of the fear that the younger sibling will also be undergoing the same kind of treatment which he or she may have undergone. Poor self-esteem, self-devaluation, lack of involvement, hysteria, lack of emotional control, etc., etc. So these are some of the things which we have to be taking care of. Now if we talk of the remedial measures, the first and the foremost is no branding or labeling of the child. Focus on maximizing the residual potential. So even if the child is undergoing a psychological stress or something else, the focus is that the focus has to be on resilience, building up resilience among children, and let him or her take his or her time and come out with whatever is possible. Sensitization of TAB, that means temporarily abled bodies. See, when we talk of the concept of, say, we consider ourselves to be normal and some other people to be not so normal. But if you see, the concept of normality is a very relative concept. It's not a static concept. So when we are talking of, say, normal, children who consider themselves to be normal may not be so, say, at any particular point of time. So sensitization is required, not only of the students, of the teachers also. A committee including the counselor, senior teachers, parents, manager with powers and some students to be formed to look into the issues from time to time. So a committee, a functional committee has to be there, and a counselor, senior teachers, principals, so that if something is going on, say somebody gets to know when the children go to a certain specific toilet, something, I mean, there are some students, something is there. So somebody who can take some remedial action, some strong action, they need to be there. Admission forms should include all kinds of deficiencies or any problems during childbirth or say during conception. Sensitization of teachers and parents and students, a proper counseling program in the school and orientation program for parents has to be done at regular intervals. Now supposing something happens, and supposing this something happens in the school, so what should a school do, or what should be the attitude of the teachers? So first of all, it's being with the child. The child should know that everybody is there to support him or her, reassuring him or her that it's not his or her fault. Listening to the angered parents, let them come out, let there be a catharsis, which this is very important, at least lending a patient ear. Consulting a trusted doctor or counselor, asking the parents what is it that they want to do, reassuring them it won't happen again in future. Don't tell them not to go to the police. Instead, the school should be taking the initiative to take the assaulters or whosoever is the defaulter to the police. Now, this was all about the remedial measures. Now, let us talk about certain proactive measures. What should be done in order to prevent such events from happening? So, life skill education is again very important. Life skill education, CBSE, is focusing quite a lot on the thinking skills, emotional skills and social skills of children, and focus has to be on resilience, that is bouncing back, coming back on your own. So, those strategies need to be done in the classes. Moral and ethical education has to be provided. Now, lectures don't help. The students have to be involved in number of group activities, cooperative, collaborative activities, and the school should be promoting activities which say that okay, bullying is not cool. So bullying is something which is not to be emulated. So those kinds of things have to be done at the school level, and making very important, making students aware that there is help, that the help is available. Many times, majority of the time, students are not even aware that somebody is there to help them. So this awareness is something which is very important for children. Never challenge a child into a drastic step. Okay, teachers may say this, if you don't do this, I will do this. Now this is threatening the child. So child may take some extreme actions or something like that. Self-fulfilling prophecies. A teacher may say, I know that, I knew that you will do this and that is why this happened. You know, these are not self, and so you are basically filling in the child's mind that okay, I am supposed to be doing this. So these are some of the things which the teachers need to avoid at all times. Negative motivation, catching any one positive action from the students, separating the child from the behavior, which is very important. The first and the foremost principle is actions of the child should not be seen actions of the child. Action and the child, these are two separate things. So we should separate, and we have to look at the child in isolation, away from the behavior which has happened, and tackle the behavior. Grades are not considered as rewards or punishments, and the students have to be taught about the effective anger management skills. Now let us talk about another concept which is known as child protection. Now, just in case any of the child's rights they have been violated, now what is the recourse? What should be done? Now this is basically done under child protection. Now child protection basically means responding to the incidents of abuse, exploitation, violence and neglect of children. So that means if something has happened, what to do about it. So it includes commercial, sexual exploitation, trafficking, child labor and other harmful traditional practices like FGM, that is female genital mutilation, and child marriage and many others. It is a framework or system by which the rights of the child can be exercised by different departments of the government like police, schools, NGOs, etc. Now we will discuss basically few points about two main mechanisms of child protection, that is the RTE and the POCSO Act. So the RTE, which is the Right of Children to Free and Compulsory Education 2009, it provides that each and every child needs to get free and compulsory education in the age group of 6 to 14 years. And it also states that equal opportunities for disabled children have to be there. And there are special provisions for children who couldn't be admitted before the or at the age of 6. So these children need to be sent to age appropriate classrooms, and the school should be taking all the mechanisms or cares to ensure that these students or children can cope up with the academic pressure there. The central and the state governments are responsible for providing or establishing schools where there are none, and the financial responsibility also rests both the central and the state government. So this was about the RTE. And it is the responsibility of the parents to send their children to school, and the appropriate government which is directly in charge of the school or area to provide pre-primary education and child care. So this was all about the right to education. Now this is another act which is considered to be a very important act, that is Protection of Children from Sexual Offences, that is POCSO 2012. Now this act talks about protection of children from sexual abuse and exploitation, and it's considered to be a very progressive act. Any child is a person below the age of 18 years, and it provides protection to all children under the age of 18 years from all kinds of sexual offences, sexual assault, sexual harassment, pornography, etc. And there is a provision which is known as aggravated offence, which is basically when it is committed by a person who is in position of trust or authority. Say for example, an act committed by a parent or a brother or a sister or an uncle, aunt. So anybody whom the child trusts, or say somebody, a police, somebody from the security forces or police forces or a public servant. So anybody who is an authority and with whom we generally associate people whom we can trust. So in that case it is known as aggravated offence. It also recognizes the intent to commit an offence. That means even if somebody intended to do something and couldn't do because of whatever reason, the act has been made liable for punishment up to half the punishment prescribed for the commission of the offence. Say if somebody intended to commit rape but couldn't do so for whatever reason, so half of the punishment the person is liable for. Another very important aspect is the onus is on the person on whom charges have been made. It is basically taken into consideration that child cannot lie for these different offences. So the onus lies on the person or the accused to prove that he or she is innocent. Various punishments for various types of sexual offences are there. Trials and testimony by children are to be done in a child-friendly manner. So these were the important, very important, you can say, transformatory regulations with respect to the POCSO Act. Now there are other important regulations also. There is an MHRD advisory on banning corporal punishments in the schools. So this RTE Act also has prohibited physical punishment and mental harassment in schools under section 17(1) and has made it a punishable offence under section 17(2). Now there is another act which is the Juvenile Justice Act. It safeguards the children in need of care and protection and juveniles in conflict with law. It states that if an incident takes place when the person was a child, he or she will be tried as a child even after he or she attains majority. But yes, in recent times this act has been criticized because of the number of heinous crimes created by juveniles who were not 18. So a relook into this particular act is being done or has been done. Now there is another act which is Child Labour Act 1986, which prohibits employment of children in specific industries and also regulates the industries in which the children can be employed and under what conditions. So the employment rules and remuneration and everything is decided by the government, and children can be employed because take into consideration the kind of the status of people and various other compulsions which are there. Another very important National Commission for Protection of Child Right has been set up by the Indian government by an act of parliament. It basically has been set up to ensure that all rules, regulations and legislations are in consonance with the rights of the children. Say any act passed, is it in consonance with the rights of the children or not? If not, it's their duty to point out. So in the end, I am just trying to sum up by saying, if you have young children, give them help, guidance and protection to the best of your ability, but even more important, give them space to be. And with that, we come to the end of this particular session. So I'll just try to wind up and tell you what different things did we cover in this particular session. So we discussed about children who are who are child or who is a child. Basically, we discussed about child abuse, children's rights, and the different children rights given to us by UNCRC, that is right to survival, right to protection, right to participation, and right to development, and the rights given to the children as per Indian Constitution. We also discussed about child abuse, different types of or the forms of child abuse, children who are at risk, identification of children who are at risk. How do we identify children who are being abused or exploited in any manner? What remedial actions do we need to take in case children are being exploited in any manner? What proactive, the remedial measures as well as the proactive measures which need to be taken. Then we discussed about under child protection, what are the different mechanisms which can help children in giving them their rights, that is the Right to Education Act, the Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act, and many other acts. So in the end, I would like to just conclude by saying that let our children be, let them enjoy their childhoods, because childhood is something, and as it is said that childhood does not end with childhood, it carries on throughout the entire lifespan of a person. Now, what do we mean by this? It means that the kind of impressions, the expressions, or the kind of experiences that we have imbibed during this period, these experiences basically define the kind of a person we are, and these experiences basically shape our personality. And that is why we say that children are like, they are like clay. The way you mold them in during this very important phase of their life, that is the childhood, it is in this stage and in this age that their personalities are formed, their self concept develops, their self esteem develops. So if children imbibe all the negative influences from the environment, we are bound to have children who are negative, and they will not be positive influences on the society. So for the betterment of a society and for the betterment of a nation, it's very important, it's very instrumental that we give our children the best of experiences which we can give them. And with that, I wish all the best to the future teachers.